Have you ever told a joke at a job interview? How did it go down? Interviewer asked me, are you gonna be a pain in the ass or someone I won't have to worry about? I replied probably both, and was offered the job shortly after. Yeah, I think I'm this type too. I tend to get my speak done without too much oversight, but I'm a pitter when rules/processes are inefficient or irrational. Had owner and what seems to be salesperson interviewing me. Salesperson was quietly judging me the whole time. I asked about the culture at the startup. Response was on how he was not going to say we are family or anything silly. More importantly, won't be a jerk about asking to get work done. I said great. Then looked down, pretend write in my notebook, and said out loud, not a jerk. Both interviewers laughed. Salesperson burst of laughter was especially shocking. Owner later teased me by pulling the same joke, and I was hired later that day. He was an amazing person to work with. Great company and team. Honestly, I picked up on context clues in his office that the interviewing manager played a lot of Blizzard stuff. So I started using terms like Zergrush and turtling. He laughed at them. I laughed at them. And then the guy who actually owned that office walked in and laughed at the last joke. Well, did you get the job? I did. Actually. The team decided that I clearly understood the concepts they asked about, despite not using the usual buzzwords. And that's actually something I took away from the whole thing. If I want to know if someone understands a concept, have them explain it in other words. Jargon can make it seem that someone knows more than they actually do. My mom worked with a Korean lady named Soyoung. When she was interviewing for the job, my mom's older boss asked her how she said her name. She said, I'm Soyoung. Like you are so old. It landed her the job instantly. That is beautiful. Printed my resume accidentally on cardstock. Thought it was resume paper. Interviewer, while turning it around in his hands. Wow, this is some thick paper. I said. Makes it harder to crumple up. He laughed. I got the job. It's my card. I thought you'd be taller. I get that a lot. The hiring manager interviewing me said, the job is great most days, but there are the days where you will wanna pull your hair out. He was bald, so I said, that must have happened to you already. He had a great sense of humor, so him and the trainee manager sitting in on the interview laughed, and he told me at the end of the interview my personality and credentials were exactly what they were looking for. I got the job and left after 3 months because it really did make me want to pull my hair out. That was a risky joke, LMAO. Interviewing for my current job with the owner of the company and the manager I'd be working under. Owner asks me, how well do you work with people who annoy you? I respond with, well, that's pretty much everyone. So pretty well. Manager belly laughed and said just hire him. I was being interviewed for a sales position at a floor covering company. My dad had been in the industry for years and had a loose acquaintance with the individual who was interviewing me. At the end of the interview, I told him that my dad told me everything I needed to know about carpet just before the interview. He said, oh yeah, what was that? My response, fuzzy side up. He called later that day and offered me the job. I had an interview for a flooring company and they asked me what my experience with flooring was, and I no joke said I've been walking on them my whole life. Solid. My cousin went to a church because he was trying to become some position at the church. Pastor, altar boy, or ultimately a priest, I assume. Essentially, he told the joke, and the Lord said unto John, come forth and receive eternal life. But John came fifth and won a toaster. From his words, the priest laughed his ass off. I was surprised he had never heard that joke before. John came fifth and had to eat the biscuit. Whenever I'd have one where there were a lot of people on their side of the table/room, I'd say something like, well, this isn't intimidating. Almost every time people would chuckle, and it broke the ice a little, as intended. But one time the men blankly stared for a moment and then just asked me to sit down. Did not get that job. Bullet dodged. Absolutely. Are you willing to work late? I'll work as long as you want me to. I may, eventually, die though. The senior guy who was working on a laptop laughed, and I did get the job. At the end of an interview I did in college for an internship, the 3 interviewers said they asked the interviewee at the end to either sing a song or tell a joke. I opted for telling a joke. I told my favorite, cleanest joke ever. Why does the chicken coop have 2 doors? Because if it had 4 doors, it would be a chicken sedan. Anyway, the internship involved working with kids and I think they wanted to see how quickly we could entertain a child without any planning really. They loved a clean joke and I followed up with I think it's important to memorize 5 clean jokes that you can tell to any audience. And proceeded to tell 4 more clean jokes. I got the internship. Edited because I can't spell very well. This is so unbelievably stupid and I can't stop laughing. My wife is already pissed at you for loading me up with a new go-to joke. Where do sick boats go? The document. I had an interview that I was already bombing. Then they asked how I do under pressure. I responded with not well apparently. Didn't get it. Can you perform under pressure? No. But I can do a decent Bohemian Rhapsody. Lol, hi dad. They asked me to tell them a joke ice cream parlor. On the spot. The only thing that came to my head was why do gorillas have larger nostrils? Because they have such big fingers. They looked at me in awkward silence and I told them I didn't want the job anyway. They looked at me in awkward silence and I told them I didn't want the job anyway. This made me burst out laughing. I worked at a middle school for a decade. The high school we fed was right across the parking lot. My wife worked there as a Spanish teacher. So when a position came up there, I thought, why not? I interviewed. They all knew me. They knew my wife. So when, at the end of the interview they asked me if I had any questions, I asked, yeah, does that cute Spanish teacher still work here? Principal laughed. Assistant principal laughed. Central office person freaked out. I didn't get the job and I can't help but think that was the reason. I was qualified. They liked me and my wife. I explained that my wife was the Spanish teacher, but I think the central office person was singularly humorless and didn't like it. No big loss. Way back, we were visiting my grandmother and my dad ducked out to mow her lawn. An elderly neighbor shuffled over and asked, "How much does Ruth pay you to mow the lawn?" Without missing a beat, my dad replied, "Nothing, but she lets me sleep with her daughter." After quickly retreating in shock, she came back sheepishly to ask if he was Ruth's son-in-law. That's a great response on your dad's part. I was interviewing for a dispatch position where I have to talk to gas technicians. Interviewer was saying, the techs can be highly stressed in the field. Some of them can get rude and unpleasant on the phones at times. They can be quite unpolitically correct. Are you able to handle people like that? Me, oh so just another conversation with my parents. That's no problem for me. I suppose she wasn't expecting that answer and burst out laughing. I ended up getting the job. I'm still there now, but now I'm part of the recruitment team, so I get to see the other side.